French religious wars and the rivalry of royalty. Because of the combative relationship between Queen Catherine de' Medici and her royal progeny, the relationship between the Protestant Huguenots and Roman Catholics deteriorated. And much later, both religions tried to establish common ground via multiple compromises. Conosci qui sogno? Oh, scusa. Welcome to the 16th century. I am Catherine de' Medici, Queen of France from 1547 to 1574. I am the Queen of conflict. Being the mother to 3 kings of France, I became a key and powerful personality in the conflict between the French Huguenots and Roman Catholics at war. I am a powerful queen, well-connected, most influential, and cunning in many ways. I was born Caterina de' Medici in April of 1519 in Florence, Italy. I am my parents' only child, who I am told were as pleased as if I had been a boy. 3 weeks later, they both died of the plague, or so I'm told. My Medici family held great power and status in Florence, a city-state in Italy, at least most of the time. Fortune and fame rose and fell. When it fell, I was only 2 years old. I was sent to live with my great-uncle at the Vatican. My father's uncle was Pope Leo X. Unfortunately, he died in 1521. When I turned 4, fortune and power rose for my family. My cousin, Cardinal Giulio de' Medici, had just been elected Pope Clement VII of France. During my time living with him, I became known as Duchessina, the Little Duchess. In 1527, fate fell. The Medici power was interrupted, again, by Charles of the Holy Roman Empire. For my protection, Pope Clement summoned me to the Vatican in Rome, where he quickly set about finding me a husband. Francis I proposed to his second son, Henry, Duke of Orleans, to be my husband. Pope Clement jumped at the offer, but I was the prize catch. A fine alliance, really. My wedding was a grand affair, both of us only 14 years old. My husband Henry danced and jousted for me. The ladies of the court treated me well. However, in 1534, when Pope Clement died, his death undermined my standing in the French court. The succeeding Pope, Paul III, refused to pay my dowry. To use his words, he said, "The girl has come to me stark naked." Can you imagine? After 11 long years of marriage, I began to conceive children, 9 of them. Ultimately, I was mother to 3 kings of France. Francis I, who was frail and died. Then Charles IX, who stepped up to the throne at the age of 10. I became regent to rule on his behalf, but he died at 24. And finally, Henry III, where I played a key role in the government. The Valois monarchy seemed assured. I reigned in an age of constant civil and religious war. Particularly, Protestants called Huguenots consistently rebelled against my French monarchy. But I resolved to take desperate measures to head off our power in decline. Unfortunately, my husband Henry III died after a jousting mishap against a French nobleman. I did not hesitate to exploit my new authority. Initially, I saw no need to banish Huguenots who worshipped in private, and in 1562, I issued the Edict of Saint-Germain to build bridges with the Protestants. But they continued to rebel. I abandoned compromise for a policy of repression. Taking great care to protect the French crown, I arranged for my youngest daughter, Marguerite, to marry Henry of Navarre, Protestant. August, 1572, the Church of Notre Dame. I stood overlooking the vast crowd of spectators pushing their way through the centuries-old cathedral. It was here that I would witness one of the first French marriages uniting Protestants and Huguenots. My Marguerite, Catholic. Henry of Navarre, Protestant. Of course, Henry would kneel as a Catholic, having converted to avoid being killed. Privately, my advisors and I had expected a Huguenot uprising, so while the leaders were still in Paris after the wedding, I chose to slaughter them. The St. Bartholomew's Day massacre was the first of the French religious wars. I'm afraid I failed to understand the devotion and religious theology of the Huguenots. Henry III, my oldest son, gave me little to no control, at least not as much as I'd had with Francis and Charles. I became a roving diplomat, traveling across the countryside trying to head off war. But Henry was unable to fight the tensions between the two religions, and in 1565 he signed the Treaty of Nemours, which meant that the Valois monarchy had lost control of France. In 1587, Catholic nobles and royals signed the Treaty of Joinesville, which meant, well, it meant compromise. One can see conflict after conflict, edicts and treaties to ease tension and form compromise. Take advice from this infamous Italian woman who ruled the French. Carry peace on a stick, but be careful. There is so much treachery about that I die of fear.